Hello, everyone. Welcome. We are going to have a fun stream today. So, first, allow me to welcome my guests. First, the always lovely Neph Champion.
行くわよ来世の試練よ
Hello, guys.
So, Mr. Tatters, there's a link in the thing. There's a link in the showcase barracks, or in the showcase part of the stream. Let me tag you real quick on Discord, just so you know where it is. Or it is. I tried tagging everybody with the role. But yeah. Next up, we have another special guest. We have Jake the Surgeon, aka Kaiju God, and he. Oh, where is this thing? Welcome aboard.
Hello.
Hello, Kaiju.
Alrighty.
General Kenobi.
So, after recent kind of feedback about kind of like tangents, kind of like how it kind of goes off, I am going to be reserving the right to play this as the tangent buzzer.
House rules, Sammy. Driver picks the music. Shotgun shuts his cake hole.
So
That's a great clip.
Perfect.
So, but anyway, seeing as the original thing where I babysit a bunch of kids tossing axes at wood, there's no arbitrary time limit.
Oh, nice.
So
Sweet.
yes, original, yes, Mr. and Mr. Blarian. Let me see. Let me grab.
Oh, you were actually babysitting today?
Not babysitting. It's basically like there's a thing where it's kind of a book club for my mother there's teen club and I just am helping out by making sure that the kids don't kill themselves with axes.
Literally?
Probably, yeah. Because
I remember that being that age.
I used to throw tomahawks. It was fun. But stupid kids be stupid.
Yeah. And we're not really, and since we're cheap, we're not going to a range. We're using the range in our backyard.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So, Neph, you may go first. Are you ready?
Yeah, sure. So, I'm going to start off where I left off last week.
What about killing other? Okay, look. All right. You go to the you go to the warehouse store and you buy some lime or whatever it's called. Okay, and you get a plastic tub. That is important. Plastic tub. Okay, continue.
Okay. So, I believe I left off at Asuna agreeing that this is hard and not fun. Does that sound familiar?
I believe so.
Okay. Mint The red-horned baron looked around the room slowly, grimacing as he took in the state of his brothers. Why was he fighting? He didn't want to. He didn't want to die for no reason either, and Asterius had always been so unreasonable. There was nothing to gain in this fight. Nothing at all. The smallest of the three Minotaurs sighed. You all right? I see no reason to continue. He reached into his side pouch and pulled out a huge crystal of a kind that they had never seen before. But I also will not help you fight my brothers. They are your family. We would never ask that of you, Harry replied. Mint held up the crystal and disappeared in a flash of light. Harry sighed in relief. He was about to relax, which was really stupid considering where he was, when there was a blood-curdling roar of rage. How dare you! Nato, the white-horned colonel, roared, catching Asterius the Blackhearted's attention. Asterius took a moment to look around the room, almost as if in confusion. Then, when he realized that his smallest brother was nowhere to be seen, a change came over him. Kirithos's shout a moment later had him moving again. Everyone, his stages are tied to his brothers. Human! Nato roared as yet another mob shattered before he could reach it. He spun, and it was undeniable who his intention locked on. Dale readied his sword. Nato hunched down low. You seek to prevent my herd from serving me. Fine. I will serve my herd. And he drew that wicked sword across his own arm, splattering the blood around. Crap, crap, crap! Dale muttered, already getting ready to dodge as the new ads formed, charging even as they resolved. Then he was snatched away by Wings of Mercy. Pina, I've decided to call you the Wings of Mercy. Koshin, you fucking lunatic! Dale knew his declaration made Silica turn when the younger girl gasped. He's not a tank, he's a meat shield. How'd he get a regen so high this early in the game? We'll ask later, Dale countered firmly as other players dived in so Koshin didn't have to soak the entire mob rush alone. Bloody Minotaur zealots? Gotta ask the betas. Later, Strafe, Nato the sadistic prick, so he knows we still love him. Down for that, Pina? The familiar gave a trill of happiness as she banked and dived towards Nato, even as Dale held on to the bottom of the feathered beast's neck after sliding down its jaw. Dung, the Minotaur cursed, and forcing him to dodge, broke his onrush of summons, so the raid team could actually start making a dent. I swear he looked scared, Silica said. Of course he does, Dale said, and the dawn realization made him smile. Kirithel acted like you taming Pino was really off what should happen this early, right? What's that got to? Silica stopped short, then laughed. You got that, Pina? He's not built to deal with you and doesn't think he knows how to. There was a moment when the dragon let out a chirr that Dale swore was like a chuckle. Silica's female banked, turned, and buzzed the Minotaur again, this time distracting him in time for Lind to rush in and tag Nato while he was trying to avoid the dragon. I'll drop off next pass for an attack and rejoin the others, Dale said, patting his ride's neck. You up for that, sweetie? Another chuckle chirr. Good girl! Nato took a swing at Klein, catching the player off guard. Nato's sword bit into Klein's side, inflicting Klein with the bleeding status. Only another buzz by Pina saved him from a follow-up strike. Fuck! Klein grunted as he pulled away from the fight and pulled out a potion, downing it. Crystals were not supposed to be available for another few floors, according to Kirito, Ruby, and Koshin. The only way to beat bleeding was to wait it out. Klein downed the potion and ducked into the fight, looking for some revenge. He wanted to tag Nato before he was forced to duck out of the fight again to consume another of his potions. Potions might not be expensive, but they were not exactly cheap either. He'd have to stock up once they reached Zumput up on the next floor. That damned cow! Klein grunted as his blade bit into the back of Nato's cloven ankle. Nato stumbled, roaring in pain. Bitty human, don't you know you are crunchy and taste good with ketchup? I'm going to tear you apart and feast on your still beating heart! Klein was silent for a long moment. Yeah, well, I'm gonna enjoy the steaks and burgers we get out of you. Boss, quit insulting our dinner and help us kill it! Everyone cut in. Kirito winced as he vaguely heard what could very loosely be called banter. He was never going to look at steak and hamburgers the same way. What are those idiots doing over there? I'll tell you what they aren't doing, Kirito-sensei, Asuna said. She sounded very unamused. They aren't killing that mini-boss fast enough. And in the meantime, we have to deal with this monster, Kirito agreed. God, I hate when games go meta. Kirito suddenly grabbed Asuna out of the way of one of Asterius' attacks, both barely avoiding getting hit with the shockwave as the hammer hit the ground. Thank you for saving me, Kirito-sensei. Asuna gave him a grin as she pulled away from his side and dashed up Asterius' back and attacked. Steam blew out of Asterius' nostrils as he began to speak, but not to any of the players. You wish they be tested, so the interlopers shall, Asterius growled, fingering around a pendant that looked vaguely metallic that rested against his chest. But only because our blessed creator bids it. If it were up to me, he paused, I would simply eat you all. Diavel and Kirito rushed in, barely catching a serious hammer on their blades. The hammer came down so hard that they were having trouble holding it at bay. Blessed creator. You think he means Kaiba? Diavel wondered. Can't be. Nothing about that bastard is divine, Kirito shot back. How dare... Quite easily. Asterius roared as Yoko and Asuna struck his back. He spun to face them, only to struggle to react when Ishin and Takako came in from his left. He blocked Takako, but Ishin's slash got through. Kirito didn't perfectly see who bracketed the raging Minotaur in, but he was already moving at Asuna's head jerk, allowing the two of them to nail the Minotaur's left arm. Diavel and Yoko? Yes. They moved in, the raid leader pushing the Warhammer aside with a roar that actually seemed to bring the boss up short, leaving him open to Yoko's strike to his chest. She wasn't exactly reserved in her anger either, and it might have been the wordless grunt of rage she gave as much as the strike that shattered him. Kirito quickly tagged Asterius from behind. Knowing more by instinct than anything else, someone followed him in. He only realized it was Ishin after the player brought his sword down on Asterius' head. It wasn't so much a directive from any one of them as a group realization. The strikes were made fast and hard. No time to engage in anything but swordplay. Whatever passed for Nato's mind seemed to finally catch up to Pina's hit runs as he dodged it and charged toward Isamu. You shall fall! Raising his bleed-inflicting blade high, Nato committed to his strike, only to let out a confused huff of air as Isamu dodged toward him. Then the summoner gasped, and the players all saw a flash, a crit. By God or luck, or the system's sense of drama, a critical hit. I always did like the Bloodborne series better. Isamu shot at the startled-looking Nato. My instincts work there. What does infection? Nato began, but then squealed in a manner more befitting a pig than a bovine, as Klein slashed across his back and Harry hit his sword arm. And Nato fumbled and dropped his sword. And it shattered. Isamu, Klein hissed. End this. They barely noticed the flash of another crit. Barely noticed the small buff of coal and experience Isamu got from an epic attack bonus. The way Nato's summons disappeared with him barely registered. The shatter only a footnote, as they followed the lead set by Pina and Silica. Asterius the Black-Hearted's final stage was hopefully next, and if the pattern held, they'd need every blade in the raid. Asterius came to a complete stop, causing the flow of battle to stop, and for a few of the players to stumble in surprise. His eyes swept the room. So, one brother talked into betrayal, another dead. His laugh was slow and calm. It was uncharacteristic of the stage he was currently in. Berserkers escalated. At last! Even in the test runs, none were worth this. Kirithal's eyes narrowed. The pendant he'd noticed earlier. It was unraveling like golden threads that were this labyrinth's gimmick. But it wasn't gold. It looked more platinum. Even as Isamu charged in, with the high of killing Nato still in his movements, Kirithal cried out, "His next stage! It's armored!" He watched in shock and fear as Isamu swung his sword. He tasted ash as it shattered against the rapidly forming platinum mail the thread was weaving into. No, we're gonna lose someone. He's going to die. This was supposed to be the greatest game ever! Why did you have to be so extra about it, Kayaba? Ugh. He bit back a cheer and started moving as Usna blocked and redirected Asterius' follow-up, giving Pina time to dive in and get the startled Isamu clear. With all his speed, he came in, angling his blade where the chainmail was not yet conformed, only to realize, even as Diavel's curse came from where he was trying the same to Kirithal's left, that the thread itself was parrying for the Minotaur. It's now loose and blocking where the beast's warhammer couldn't. Diavel's eyes met Kirithal's, and on an unspoken agreement they fell back. The others kept trying, Usna barely dodging a riposte from a damn warhammer! Cripes, the guy was broken! Pina quickly learned the arc of the Minotaur's swing precluded her buzz tactic, and she landed further away and seemed to be breathing on people. Diavel tapped his shoulder, almost punched it really, and Kirithal grunted. Refocus, they needed a new tactic. Quick! What do we know? He was prompted by the raid leader. He's got a new title besides Black-Hearted on his HP bar. Anger as Beauty. Diavel snorted. Think I remember a song by a Canadian or something called that. Is that a new buff? Kirithal agreed. I don't remember it from the beta. What does Tranquil Fury mean? Diavel groaned. It means so angry he's calm. Ever seen The Princess Bride? Kirithal thought for a moment, then winced. Like Inigo versus the Man in Black after he gets his second wind. Except the bad guy. Diavel agreed. Damn, that hammer is just unfair one-handed. That armor finishes forming, Kirithel determined. This battle gets longer. Too long. He will wear some of us out. Diavel closed his eyes. Kirithel saw his fellow beta tester take a deep breath, heard the shockingly gentle exhale. Then Diavel turned and started moving. Back me up and get him if I don't. Kirithel knew he didn't have time to ask as Diavel charged in, only shouting, "Make a hole!" To the credit of their fellows, making a hole did not entail letting up. Even as they were let through, the rest of the raid party kept up the pressure. Even as Asterius easily dodged and parried their attacks, they kept it up. The black-hearted anger as Beauty still saw them coming. Asterius swung towards Diavel's neck. Diavel went low under the hammer's head and threw his golden ball of thread. "Harry, pass it on!" Kirithel caught on, even as he saw Harry, one's eyes alight up. As their allies moved out of the way of the thread, Harry tossed it to Asuna on the Minotaur's other side. She only fumbled a moment, blinked at the ball, and then smiled. "Klein?" Asterius, whether he got their end or not, he tried to bat the ball out of the air. Kirithel parried him, forcing the hammer low. Klein didn't throw immediately, instead lapped it, the Minotaur, until he reached Harry again. "Your department, bro." Harry just grinned, grabbed the ball, and began to run circles around the boss. Those that couldn't jump out of the way dropped down. What human dung is this?" Asterius huffed. No one answered, but when Harry stopped just behind the boss, everything happened. Asterius struggled, the thread straining as Diavel ran in, and his broadsword's point leading his charge, closing even as the thread broke. The flash of a critical hit rewarded them. Not the yellow pulsing of the mob's body of a mere crit, like the Kobold Lord, when Asuna and Kirithel had struck him down. Final attack bonus. For an instant, Kiavel's blade was embedded in the Minotaur's chest, threaded through the loops of the still-forming chainmail to go through the boss and out the other side. Asterius gasped and dropped his hammer, a sharp exhale coming from his lips. He looked at Diavel. Diavel saw his friend and fellow beater stare coldly back as the last quarter of Asterius' HP rapidly dropped away. Your armor was forming in real time. Chainmail needs to overlap, or be a tighter weave to cover you. I guess we could outlast you. I am Diavel, and we are passing Kayaba's bullshit tests. With a pathetic little huff, Asterius managed an "oh" before shattering. "Congratulations!" All the other players fell to the ground, all but the beaters panting and exhausted. Who was he kidding? They just kept their composure better. "Yes, well done, everyone," Diavel said. "Yeah, only 98 floors left," Kirithel mumbled, stiffening when he felt Asuna lean into his side. "Will you please stop that?" "No, you're comfortable," Asuna replied with a sigh. Kirithel rolled his eyes as he turned his attention back to Diavel. "What did you get from Asterius?" Diavel opened his menu to check his drops. "I've got..." "Huh. What's up, Diavel?" Kirithel asked. "I've got experience in core, of course," Diavel replied thoughtfully, as he stared at his menu. "I got that platinum thread Asterius was wearing as mail. It's called the Finder's Thread." "Anything else?" Kirithel asked. "Yeah," Diavel replied. "A skill slot marked locked and assigned." The beaters looked at each other in confusion. Finally, Kirithel sighed. "Okay, someone heal Koshin, and let's get out of here," he said finally. He needed to get out of here, even if nobody else did. Kirito had enough of other people for the time being. Koshin, whose HP was nearly in the red, held his hands up. I'm fine. A shadow fell over him, and Pina was standing over him. Healing! Silica chimed from Pina's back. Do your thing, Pina. Pina breathed over Koshin, her breath tinted gold with healing light. When she was finished, the dragon chuckled, giving Koshin an expression that looked rather smug. Why is your dragon looking at me? Koshin paused, becoming incensed. How is your dragon able to be smug, Silica? Klein chortled. I guess Kayaba knows his AI. Koshin snorted. Doesn't know people. All right, if that's finished, Kirithel called over the quiet laughter. Let's get out of here. And that's it.
Very good. Very,
Thank
very
you.
good.
Yeah, good action. So, since I didn't get to finish, I think it was last week. I didn't get to finish Burf's entry, so I'm just going to finish it since there's not very much left.
Okay.
Okay.
Um, so, 10 hours. That's 10 hours. So I streamed for couple hours on my stream, and then I walked over to Anomaly Inc. stream. So I streamed from about 1:30 to 10:30 ish.
Wow,
Ah.
that's a long time.
I see
Yeah.
you are a longman.
Well, it's not my own stuff. It's separated over other people's stuff. So
Well, still, you have the endurance of a longman.
Yeah, you do.
thank you. Well, it's mostly because just I'm used to sitting in front of a computer for hours.
Yeah, so am I.
You know. Okay. So for setup, I'm gonna try. One of these days, I'll figure out how to merge these two videos. Uh, I'll just finish it. So for reference, a girl named Parika just barely fought off a pair of muggers slash pimps, and she is now trying to get away from it. She sighed deeply as Parika sighed deeply as she finally arrived at her destination, at a laundry house. The building, the the neighborhood where it was located was smaller than the other ones around it. It stood next to the multiple other public laundries that it shared with the other such establishments throughout the city. Burka pushed open the modest wooden door of the establishment and a chime, causing a chime to announce her arrival. There was nothing special about the interior of the shop except that one had to walk down a step up at the entrance before reaching the counter. A slightly plump woman greeted her, er, 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 greeted her, er, as she came out of the back room, the door closing behind her. She did not look very friendly and looked her over with no small amount of undisguised disdain. Brika didn't pay much attention to it and went straight to the point and explained why she came. She was looking for a woman named Clarissa, and who worked as a washerwoman at this establishment. The fat lady nodded her head and disappeared through the door she came through. Parika waited for a short while before seeing her again with another woman. The second woman was more smiling and welcoming than her colleague, and greeted Parika warmly before introducing himself as the one and that she was looking for, Carissa. 1 second, I need to pause to bring in our final guest. Let me.
Hello.
Hello. Alrighty. But you are, she stammered. What then? What's wrong? She hastened to put it back in her apron, made of a canvas bag, and reassured her colleague. Oh, it's nothing. Thing. A thing. I'll just hang out with the kid for a little bit, and then I'll be right back. It's bad news, is it? She asked curiously. Is it serious? Clarissa didn't answer those questions, but just smiled at her before going out with Perica. Sitting on a box in the alley next to the laundry house and away from prying eyes, the washerwoman read the letters she had been given carefully. At the end of her reading, the young woman raised her hand towards Perica. So it's true what they're saying lately. The White Tiger Army is splitting up. Yes, she replied simply. What about the boss? She asked, looking away. Perica took a while to answer. She had done everything she could to stop thinking about it and keep smiling, but it had to come back one of these days. In spite of herself, where her eyes were filled with tears and her eyes throat instantly closed, she could hardly speak, but she had to be answered. Master Redka is dead. I'm really sorry, Clarissa said understandingly. You better hold back your tears. He wouldn't like to be cried over, you know. She stood up to hug her, trying to comfort her, and took the opportunity to remove her hood. Here, so I can see how much you've grown, she exclaimed. But my gosh, you're becoming a beautiful young woman. A beautiful young woman? Was Clarissa exaggerating or teasing her? She didn't know what to think. Fricka had only lived 16 winters and would soon meet her 17th. She had nothing for herself and looked like any other girl from the north. A face with thin features, symmetrical eyes, and a small nose. A mouth with medium-sized lips, naturally pink, pearly skin in perfect harmony with the deep black of her hair, which had finally grown back and she had roughly gathered into a braid behind her head, and a body that would look good when it reached maturity. The thing out of the ordinary was her pupils. They were the special oh, oh, part of her appearance. They were an almost disturbing blue. It was like she had precious stones instead of eyes, like sapphires. Perka was best known in the White Tiger Army for that aspect of her appearance. Those pupils aroused curiosity among those who were close to her and her master. She seemed to be the only one that knew their secret. You no longer have anything to do with the cheeky little girl who was running around our boss, continued the washing woman in a mocking tone. I've changed a lot, she said, blushing. Well, we'll see, but enough joking around. She put the letter back in her apron and stared at Perica for a moment while getting lost in her thoughts. The girl felt as if it would last an eternity. In his letter, she finally said, Redka asked me to take care of you here in Morona. But the more I think about it, the more I realize that this town is not a good place for you. I'll behave properly. I promise I won't make any mistakes. Clarissa squinted for a moment. She looked at the girl's cape. Her eyes, trained by years of work, noticed the brown stains at the top of her desk. Blood? She said, panicked. It's not yours. No, you don't have wounds on your face, so it's someone else's. I had to whack a few people on my way here, she replied with an embarrassed laugh. And in my defense, they want to force me to go on the streets. It's, it's unbelievable. As soon as you get here, you start attacking people. You're really Redka's student, for heaven's sake, she said, stunned in consternation. Clarissa put her hand over her face, then, after a sigh, she lowered it again. Anyway, the problem is that a few months ago, oh, an incident occurred. Morona lost control with a small town nearby and its lord. Nothing has been made official, but according to information I've received, the town authorities believe the mercenaries have besieged it and killed the lord. Since then, guards have been high alert and are hostile towards mercenaries like you and me. Prickle lowered her head. Ed and slowly began grasping the situation of the city she was in. If she took a single wrong step to reveal an ounce of her fighting skills, she would end up in a jail cell for the rest of her life. But that doesn't mean you're going to walk away. I'm more for it. Our boss will haunt me for not helping you than the soldiers. The teenage girl's eyes betrayed hope for her case. You're doing a pretty good job when you took one of our uniforms, and judging by the condition of your hands, you're still a good worker. You're determined, and I know I can trust you. I can get you a good job. All I ask in return, you behave like a normal girl. She asked in a humorous tone. Yes, she answered in an aggressive tone, hands on hips. And you know what that means? No hidden daggers, no beatings. If you have a problem, you call the guards. Got it, idiot? Yes, very clear, Lieutenant. She answered with a radiant smile. None of that, and none of this between us. Nobody's lieutenant anymore. Calissa adopted a bossy tone towards the girl. Oh, just as any older sister would. The White Tiger Force was completely separate. If Parika was in trouble, no one would be able to protect her. Acting normally wasn't difficult. All she had to do was keep her mercenary status secret. Wasn't that basically what she had to aspire to now that her master was dead? To start a new life away from blood and battlefields? To enjoy the pleasures of life without constantly being afraid to die? She was happy to find something to live for in this great city. She would do everything not to disappoint her godmother and protect this new life. Okay. Nice.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, there's some interesting ideas. I think like part of like the reason why the prose is slightly rough, but I like a lot of the rough ideas. So if you want Burf, I can take a look through it and edit it. So if you want to do it in English as well as your own language, I can provide you an edit of like how it like
Should look.
how it should look. Yeah.
Is it bad that I don't even know what pros are when it comes to writing?
It's basically
Okay,
just
let's
the writing
put it
style.
this way. There's a trope called purple prose. That's when you talk in really, really flowery language and yet don't say anything at all.
Oh, okay. So a lot of shit that I hate.
Yeah. What you want to do is you want to be as concise as possible while saying as much as possible.
Okie dokie.
Prose is just like the way the novel is written.
Yes.
Oh, so it's kind of like pacing in a way.
Well,
I mean, not pacing.
It's the actual writing of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like a paragraph of prose in a book is just a paragraph of writing.
And
okay.
Then you have purple prose hell, which is framing monsters. If you've listened to that.
Oh, I'm waiting until all you are done so I can just binge it all.
Well,
are you sure you want to binge that?
Your suffering gives me strength. I need it. I need it.
Well, the thing is, we've done six streams already.
Look, my days at work are long,
hours.
and I need shit to listen to.
Well, it's three. It's 3 hours apiece.
Yes.
Oh, that'll get me through most of the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. I believe it is your turn.
Okay, before I begin, I just want to say, has anybody in this stream and or chat heard a little horror movie called Pumpkinhead?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna drop a picture in the Discord chat, the general chat, of what the monster itself looks like, just to give you an idea.
Okay.
Where is it? Where is it? Where was it? Oh, is this it? This was 9. Okay, yeah.
I imagine.
Yep. It does not have a pumpkin for a head, actually. Yeah, the reason why it's called that is in the film it gets that name because it resides in an old pumpkin patch. So this is just something I got bored at work one day, and
that thing is disgusting.
It's awesome. It's
what
really
kind of work
awesome.
do you do? What kind of work do you do?
I am a janitor.
Oh dang!
I don't get paid enough.
Yeah.
But
Janitors don't.
No, but I got bored at work because the little turdlings aren't there, so there's not a lot to really clean. So I'm like, I want to see Pumpkinhead fight someone. So I decided to write a little short story. That is the origin of this. Anywho's, here we go. As the sun set during a stormy night in the Ozarks, a man stood before an old woman. Please, I need him, he pleaded. You don't need him, but you do need what he can provide, she said, talking as she cut his hand. She collected the blood in a wooden cup and walked over to a shriveled up corpse and poured the blood over it. Outside the small wooden house was a hulking figure. His clothes were tattered and ripped. Decaying flesh was exposed through the rips and tears. He wielded a machete and wore a grimy hockey mask smeared with dried and blackened blood. Slowly, he made his way to the house. The woman felt a presence outside and let out a haggard chuckle. Now I see why you're so desperate. You brought another demon here. The man looked at her confused. You killed my friends. You killed my dad. He stuttered a bit as a burning sensation began to well up within him. Go on. Say it. The woman said, I need vengeance. At that moment, the door was ripped off the hinges and thrown into the woods. The figure stepped into the house and looked around blankly. Jason Voorhees, what's left of him, said the woman as she looked up at the Goliath. I told your mama not to mess with things above her, but love and vengeance are a potent combination. She laughed. As Jason lifted his machete, the man began to scream and writhe in pain. Jason looked up and saw what he thought was a corpse begin to grow. For the first time in decades, he felt a chill go up his spine as he saw a massive monster. It was easily a head taller than him, with huge hands with long fingers tipped with claws, and a long tail with a sharp point and a maw filled with teeth as sharp as they were thick. He met its glazed-over eyes as thunder and lightning filled the air. With a single motion of his hand, the beast sent Jason flying out the door and crashing into a tree. The tree trunk splintered all around and several feet up. Jason, feeling rather dazed for the first time in years, struggled to his feet. The monster known as Pumpkinhead, at least to the locals, walked out of the house and stared Jason down. Their gazes locked once more, both sizing the other up before Pumpkinhead dashed with surprising agility and speed. The demon crashed into Jason, but not before he plunged his blade deep into the monster's shoulder. The collision drove Jason through the tree as he and Pumpkinhead both crashed to the ground. The tree's fall created a thunderous crashing noise that echoed through the mountain range. Both of the Titans got to their feet, but Jason managed first and charged, managing to grab onto his machete and rip it out. Pumpkinhead shrieked in pain along with the man. "You should probably get away from here," said the woman as she took a seat in her rocking chair. The man got to his feet and looked at the brawl. Jason had managed to gain the upper hand. He was hacking away at the demon's hand as he blocked. Seeing this, he bolted and ran as fast as he could. As Jason went to town on Pumpkinhead's hand, he managed to slice off 3 of his fingers. Snarling as the demon plunged the blade into the palm of his own hand. Jason's eyes widened a bit as the fingers he cut off began to regrow, and in an instant they were fully healed. Jason tried to pull the machete free, but Pumpkinhead had already grabbed onto the blade with his long fingers. The demon gave out a sinister chuckle as his lips curled into a sickening grin. As if in response, Jason promptly drove his fist into Pumpkinhead's right eye. The man fell to his knees and yelled in agony. He couldn't see out of his right eye, and the pain surging through his body was like that of 1,000 hot needles being shot into him by a cannon. It was so intense he almost passed out. Worse yet, he was getting glimpses of the fight. Death would be better than this. But he continued on after a minute, fighting through the pain and visions. Jason could feel what he thought were brains, but his head tilted a bit as the creature in front of him was not only still alive, but somehow matching his strength. Such a concept was foreign to the once living man, corrupted by forces beyond comprehension. Pumpkinhead then grabbed Jason's arm with his free hand and slowly began to pull it free. At the same time, Jason had done the same with his machete. The second the bind was broken, both monsters began relentlessly slashing at each other, each cut getting deeper and deeper until the ground was soaked in blood. The pain was too much for the man to handle as he stumbled to the ground and hit his head on a rotting tree stump, knocking him out. Pumpkinhead stumbled back, looking concussed and confused before falling unconscious himself. Jason once again tilted his head. He cautiously walked over to examine the fallen demon. All the wounds he'd inflicted were healed, yet somehow the monster fell. His one-track mind then turned back to his original target as he walked away from the creature. As the man began to stir, he grabbed his bleeding head and stumbled to his feet. The pain had seemingly stopped, aside from his head wound. He could hear footsteps behind him. He quickly snapped to attention as Jason moved towards him slowly. The man tried to bolt, but his daze from his fall hadn't subsided, causing him to stumble backwards and fall down. He scrambled back as fast as he could. Jason kept moving at the same pace, slowly but surely getting closer and closer. The man stopped and looked at Jason with a twisted smile. For the first time, a mere human managed to make him hesitate. It resembled that of the demon. Jason turned behind him, but saw nothing. He turned back to the man, but again saw nothing. His vision was then obscured by a massive hand wrapping around his head and pulling him up a tall tree. Pumpkinhead stretched out his long arm. Jason struggled, but the pressure on his head was too much. Pumpkinhead smiled his sinister smile before letting go. Jason dropped 20 feet and crashed onto the ground. The man began laughing like a madman. "That's what you get! That's what you get!" he cackled, only to be silenced by Jason sitting up and looking straight at him. The man quickly stopped laughing and began to scramble away. Pumpkinhead dropped from the tree and landed on his feet. Jason stood, blade at the ready. The two behemoths crashed once again, Jason stabbing and slashing with his machete while Pumpkinhead did the same with his claws. Neither were making a dent in the other. The demon knocked the blade from Jason's hand before the two grappled and pushed each other. Excuse me. They pushed each other until they lost balance and began falling downhill. Both tried to halt their momentum but failed. They then found themselves submerged in a lake, still locked as they sunk to the bottom. Night turned to day as the man finally reached a road and fell to his knees. He could see the two still battling at the bottom of the lake. Pumpkinhead's tail wrapped around Jason's neck while Jason plunged his fist into the monster's chest, both undying and unyielding, neither showing signs of stopping. He stayed there for hours, lost in the spectacle. A car stopped by him and a young couple got out. "Sir, are you all right?" the young woman said. The man looked at her with his now demonic eyes and said, "It won't end. It'll never end." The end.
Very nice indeed.
Well, I know I'm not sleeping tonight. It's a good thing I'm still watching the playthrough for Twilight Princess. Ugh.
Very, very creepy. You definitely nailed the atmosphere.
Yeah, you nailed it.
Why, thank you.
From what I understand, it's a better Jason versus than Freddy versus Jason.
How dare you? Freddy vs. Jason's a masterpiece.
Was that sarcasm? I've only heard that.
Partially, yes. It's a very, very, very flawed film, but I still love it so much.
Guilty pleasure then.
I wouldn't even know. It's not even a guilty pleasure. I unironically enjoy bits of it. Of course, Jason's sudden fear of water came the fuck out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen people say it's not a fear of water, it's a fear of drowning, but just the sight of water makes him, tremble.
Yeah.
Well, it seems as though Mr. Valerian is unfortunately suffering from
technical difficulties.
His internet tismed on him. Oh no.
Nephical difficulties.
Mom!
Ah.
I can't believe I'm a meme.
Well, I'm a meme too. I just own the fact that I'm a meme. Yes, but a very cute meme. Make all the boy memes go. Wah.
People call me Nefarious B.I.G. Ayla, those are crackers. Those aren't for you. Stop it.
Do you have a pet?
Yes, it's like my cat. It's my cat.
Kitty!
She's the size of a small dog.
Wow.
I had to buy her a dog bed because there are no cat beds big enough for her.
Big cat.
Yeah, very big cat. Alrighty. So, I promised this a couple weeks ago, and I wasn't able to read it last week. So, what I am going to read is a magic rock concert.
Yes, Wise Wolf, I am not cool, man.
Have you listened to any of Anomaly Inc. streams?
I have not. No.
I don't think so.
You sound a lot like Cool Man 229.
I'll have to see.
Well, I can always pull up one of Anomaly's streams right now, and we can compare voices.
I think we'd get in trouble for that.
Well,
it's up to you.
Well, if it would probably be off air, and then we can. Alrighty. So, this is in book 2 of the Dark Champion cycle. The first book is currently out on Amazon Kindle if you want to kind of read up to this point. But this contains a number of spoilers for book Well, it's like after the end of book one, obviously, so certain things are going to be spoiled. Um, the cheers nearly deafened Rayla as she entered the large platform in the center of the great circle, an ancient circular stadium carved uh, out of the large rock formation, out of a large rock formation in the center of the Kresh Desert. All around her were Kresh, some warriors with their braided hair, unnaturally large height, bright golden skin, forked tongues, and feline faces, and other more normal humans with deep golden hair all mixed in the crowd. Welcome to Rayla Soravra, Jianwen declared, gesturing toward her, the great Faberspawn Slayer. As soon as she was announced, this crush in the stands began cheering wildly for her. Somewhat self-consciously, Rayla waved back. Slowly, they took their spots on the platform, all of them standing so that anybody could see who was talking. Rayla felt slightly useless as the various Kresh manses argued over a number of topics, though thankfully the conversation eventually became focused around the brewing war with the Exalted across the mountains. They'd welcomed her warmly enough, but all these people were so inhuman. Their forked tongues, golden skin, braided dreadlock hair, and slightly lionish faces made her very uneasy. Jianwen was the one speaking the most vehemently, despite being the newest of the Mansas. We should cross the mountains, he declared. We must ensure that our people are safe. But who will lead us? Gura, the most grizzled and scarred out of the Mansas, folded her arms. Our way has always been all Kresh. Even the Mansas are equals, and our position is one of service, not dominance. A much thinner Mansa named Arya oaked his thin beard and goatee. Each of us did some act of great service to our clans to become Mansas, he mused. It is only right that one amongst us should perform some service for all Kresh, not just our individual clan, in order to prove him or herself worthy of leading our people in war. Such a task is impossible, Gura scoffed. I do not have the time nor the means for that kind of work. None of us do. Rayla, now is our chance, Maria interjected eagerly. Rayla was so engrossed with the conversation happening around her that the voice's abrupt remark made her start. What do you mean? These people value service, Maria explained. We have something they couldn't possibly do on their own. We can do what the champion did all those centuries ago. Give them what he gave them and more. I thought you didn't believe in the champion, Rayla remarked. Not as this semi-divine person. Maria gave the impression of rolling her eyes. He was just a very powerful sorcerer who did a great deal of good, though perhaps some of the legends may have obfuscated any dark deeds he may have done. History is very much a series of making heroes and villains out of each side, often washing the stains away for the sake of a narrative. Swallowing, Rayla tried to screw up her courage, but for some reason the words she was trying to come up with stuck in her throat. Help! Even in her head, the thought was a squeak. I can't do this by myself. Rayla, Maria said gently, you're going to have to grow beyond just relying on me and actually doing some things on your own. But I'm just a farm girl. I don't know the first thing about making speeches. Rayla tried not to sound too petulant, but a hint of it was clearly evident by how Maria sighed in irritation. Sighing, Rayla gave her the impression of shaking her head. Well, I suppose this is a rather important moment that could have dire consequences if you were to botch it, she said in resignation. I'll give you the words, but you have to say them as loud and proud as you can. Eating out slowly, Rayla tried to gather as much confidence she could, but for whatever reason just wouldn't come. Can't you take control of my body and do it yourself? Rayla asked. No, I'm not your puppeteer, Maria said sternly. I'm your friend and teacher. I'm not going to take over your life just so it can be easier for you. Okay, Rayla thought to her. I'll say it, but I'm gonna need your help. Very well, Maria gave her a feeling of confidence. Here's the speech. What if I could do something for the whole of the Kresh people? Rayla asked, trying to make her voice sound as confident as possible. A service that nobody but the champion could possibly have provided. All of the Mansas turned toward her, clearly speculative. What is your offer, Soravra? Gura asked. Rayla extended her hand and summoned her blade, the bracelet and glove on her hand transforming into a long rapier. For dramatic effect, she drew a trickle of Cyrus through the sword to make it glow bright green as she rested the tip on the ground and put her hands on the pommel. I will sing to the land and bring life to the desert, she promised, adding her own little spin of it that Maria hadn't thought of. The collective gasp from the Kresh was rather gratifying, but there was still that pit of fear and apprehension in her stomach. She fought it back and kept talking. I will turn the desert into a land of fruit and plenty, create rivers and lakes where there were none, and fertilize the ground for 100 years to come. The Mansas were staring at her, faces inscrutable. As the silence drug on, Rayla felt more and more uncomfortable, but she tried to show as little as possible. Finally, Giaria spoke up. If you can do that, she said, it began, then I will accept you as our leader during this war. Jianwen and 3 of the other masses nodded. Only Gura seemed somewhat speculative. Prove that you can back up your claims, she said calmly. Show me that you can do you a part of what you offer. Rayla thought for a moment, then she looked up at the sky. And remember to sing, Jianwen put in. Though it seemed to be good-natured, at least. Rayla hoped it was. The large Mansa's face was impassive, extremely impassive even when he made a joke. Breathing in to regain her concentration, Rayla took hold of Cyrus and Isissa. Then, after a moment of cautious consideration, she took hold of Iran. Rayla made a few sounds of warning, but Rayla only used a small portion so that she could float upward for dramatic effect. Taking a deep breath, she began putting together a rain construct, though after a bit of thought, she added a bit of color to the construct so that everyone around her could see exactly what she was doing. She might not know quite what to say if she was put on the spot, but at least she knew a few things about putting on a show. A song came to her lips and she let it loose, letting the sounds ring out over the land. High above the great circle, clouds began forming in a sky that had never seen clouds. Still singing, Rayla moved her hands almost as if she were molding the storm, causing the clouds to roil and shift. Darker and darker they became, causing all of the Kresh in the stands to gasp in amazement, some of them standing up as if to get a better look at the storm above them. As soon as the pressure built to the right point, Rayla released it. Immediately the storm broke, rain pouring down from the sky like wine from a broken barrel. Before it could touch her, Rayla formed a shield of hardened air around herself, preventing any of the rain from reaching her. Some things might change, but Rayla's distaste for wet clothes was not among them. The Kresh assembled in the stands all stood up and held out their hands, gazing up at the rain as if they were staring at gold falling down from the sky. Reaching down, Rayla shifted her song, then sent tendrils of power into the soft ground around the platform, instantly fertilizing the ground and causing a set of brightly colored flowers to spring up from the hard rock, eliciting more gas from the assembled Kresh. More gas, more and more of the plants sprang up in the stands, only in patches, causing more splashes of color to decorate the once plain stones. Rayla let the rain come down and down for a few minutes, then she floated down and released it, letting the storm run its course. Gura nodded slowly to her, as did the others. You have great power, Giaria remarked, and this is a sign of your service to come. Flexing her hands, Rayla looked around. Tonight, the whole of the desert will bloom with flowers like this. Her voice rang out across the bowl. You have my word. As soon as she finished speaking, Rayla transported herself to the set of rooms she'd been given. As soon as the adrenaline from the speech dissipated, she ran over to an empty pot and vomited into it. Oh, save me, Maria groaned, the impression of wrinkling her nose clear. Grimacing, Rayla wiped her mouth and then created a construct that destroyed the vomit before replacing the pot. Did you ever have to do stuff like that? Rayla asked. I had impeccable training in public speaking as well as several other skills such as fencing from the time I was 6, Maria said calmly. You really should set something like a proper education system up. People should learn certain things. I'll put it on the list of things to do once we've beaten the other exalted. Ayla took a deep breath and rubbed her eyes. Well, better get writing. Abruptly, Kotar rushed into the room, clearly excited. That was amazing, she exclaimed, picking Rayla up in a bear hug. What you did out there? Incredible. I never thought you were able to give a speech like that. Yeah, me neither. Rayla sighed as Kotar set her down. Well, I'm going to need to come up with something. One of our old songs from home isn't going to do the job. All right, Kotara patted her confidently on the shoulder. I'll leave you to it. Once the larger woman had departed, Rayla took a seat on a table, then cut a piece of stone out of the wall and used a rung to transmute it into a piece of paper. Breathing in, she looked at the paper and then made the words appear on the page. Over and over, she rethought the words and removed the ink, reading each line until she was satisfied. Fear churning in her stomach. Ayla glanced out the window at the night sky, trying to gather her thoughts as she picked up the guitar she'd made only a few days ago. Absently, she toyed with a small piece of paper that she'd written for the notes for her song, but for whatever reason, she couldn't keep the notes straight in her head despite just having barely written them. Trying to appear casual, she apped into a run and translocated to the walls where a large crowd had gathered. Nervously, she looked out over the crowd waiting along the walls of the city, trying to get a feel for the mood. Finally, she floated down to the ground and drifted across the desert to an appropriate spot. Breathing in, Rayla reached out to Isissa and floated the paper in front of her and unslung her guitar and began to play. For a moment she played, then she realized that she'd forgotten to activate her sound amplification construct. Damn it, she muttered, putting it into place. What is going on with me? Stage fright, Maria gave the impression of shrugging. It happens to everyone, especially in such high pressure like this. Thank you, Ayla remarked as she restarted, swallowing as the music began echoing over the landscape. It felt so hollow, so lacking in spirit. Grimacing, she halted, unable to really focus. She started hyperventilating, letting the guitar hang. I can't do this. She whispered, maybe I should just fly around. Come on, Rayla. Maria encouraged, this is your moment. Be your own person. Owe them something spectacular. Slowly, Rayla looked up at the sky, then felt something start to stir. Isissa was playing its usual high-pitched lyrical music, while Cyrus was deeper and had a throbbing tempo. And then a Ron was at the back of her mind. its violent staccato beat acting as a counterpoint to the other two. It was the most beautiful thing that Rayla had ever heard. Better than anything she could come up with. If only I could play music like that, she thought. Then she smiled and put down her guitar, raising her hands to the heavens. The opening is done, she declared, voice booming out over the desert. Now the real show is about to begin. A lightning bolt came down from the open sky, the clouds starting to form as Rayla grasped onto all three powers, forming a storm construct. As if it were a physical thing, Rayla caught the lightning bolt and transformed it into a guitar made of pure energy. With careful precision, she attached the guitar strings to the storm so they would create colored lightning in time with her music. Let me hear you, she yelled. Let's make some noise. The crash raised their arms and started cheering as Rayla slammed her hand down on the guitar, sending a blast of energy outward. Plants and grass began rising from the formerly parched desert as rain fell down from the clouds above. Awed at the display, Crash gazed up at the rain, likely seeing a storm for the first time. Confidence rising, Rayla began to play, letting loose the song of the three powers into the air, letting it fill the air as she floated skyward, pulled up by Iran. Then she began to sing. Rayla sang of storms and deserts, plants and trees, life carrying on despite adversity. Her voice harmonized with the high pitch of Isissa, counterpointed the deeper Osiris, and mitigated the discordance of Iran. The air warped and shimmered around her, making her feel as if reality itself was bending to her will. Let this be my legacy, Rayla thought as she continued to sing to the land, bringing to life for the first time in centuries with her music. I will not be remembered as a monster or a failure. I will be the one who brought life to the desert, peace to the war-torn, and protection for the powerless. She flew through the storm as lightning flashed around her, each a different color. Cheers from the crowd out below her cheered her on, making her feel alive in a way that she hadn't experienced since Randon Field. As she danced through the skies, her guitar sent out shockwaves of power, causing the plants and trees to simultaneously bloom as rain came down from the skies. Taking a deep breath, Rayla slammed her hand down across the strings, sending out blasts of power toward the ground, creating hundreds of deep trenches. Raising her hand, she summoned up large bursts of water from the deep in the earth with a few notes on the guitar strings. For the first time, a series of rivers began crisscrossing the area, the storm raining down moisture on the formerly parched land. As she played, though, Rayla felt something, as if another person were using all three sources beside her. She turned, then started. Mal was floating beside her, looking at her with a look of shock, a flute held loosely in her slack hand. There was something strange about her, as if she were made of mist. Her friend, or the thing that looked like her friend, reached out to Rayla, as if she couldn't believe what she was seeing. Mel's mouth moved, but no sound came out. There was only the music of Iran, Isissa, and Cyrus emanating from her. Rayla smiled and held up her instrument, then pointed to the other woman's fruit. Abruptly, Al seemed to realize that she was holding something and then put it to her mouth. In unison, the two women began to play, their powers linking and connecting, almost as if they had minds of their own. Reality shimmered, causing Rayla to see misty copies of the crash, though when she looked closer, she saw that they were equally people, with pins similar to the ones on her collar. Taking a deep breath, Rayla let her voice ring out, and for the first time Mal's voice became crystal clear. They were singing the same song, same lyrics, but with different notes, mirroring and complementing each other like old dance partners going through well-trodden movements. What is going on? She asked Maria. How does Mal have the source? Maria seemed to be frantically searching through mental notes. It seems as though what you have been doing is thinning the barrier between this and alternative dimensions, she said finally. I am assuming that Mal has taken up your role in another possible timeline, at least your power set. So this time a perpendicularity was created. And because you both are doing something at a critical conjunction, the fulcrum of time and space is being turned with this action. I imagine that since you both have the three sources and are using them for the same thing, we are seeing into another possible world. Not fully understanding what was being said, Rayla just let herself play and play. As Rayla let the music blast out over the landscape, she saw now that she and Mal were harmonizing together. The spread of green increasing drastically. Rayla flashed a smile at Mal, who returned the grin and flew upward, causing her to follow after. They wove around each other, their song melding with the bursts of lightning over their heads, letting themselves be lost in the joy of the music. Finally, though, after what felt like hours of singing and playing, Rayla floated down, the misty version of Mal landing beside her, and they both took a bow. The crash, both misty and physical, cheered wildly, clapping their hands together as Rayla and Mal lifted their instruments above their heads. To Rayla's surprise, the other Mal smiled at her and blew her a kiss. Then she was gone, leaving nothing behind. As she vanished, the other mist people evaporated into the ether as well, causing the crash to look around in puzzlement. So they can see it too, Rayla thought as she walked into the assembled crowd. I'm not crazy. As she approached, the crush dropped to their knees, pressing their fists to their chests. We vow that we will always serve you, Gura declared. My clan stands with Sora of Ra. And mine. And Murak, an enormous crush with a lionish face and red beards, proclaimed diffusely. Now and always, your will is ours, Storm Queen. The cry was taken up as the crush stood and drew their weapons, brandishing above their heads. Storm Queen! Storm Queen! Storm Queen! I did something right, Rayla thought as she let herself be surrounded by the crush, the creatures respectfully bowing before her and touching her with reverence. But this isn't who I am, she thought as they looked at her with worship in their eyes. I'm just a girl, but to them, I'm a goddess. It is the price that those with great power must pay, Maria said sympathetically. We cannot relate to them even as a healthy man cannot relate to one who is born disabled. We have transcended normal human capacity to the point where we cannot be among them as we would have liked. Wish I didn't have to pay. I wish that I didn't have to pay it. Rayla looked around, feeling distinctly alone despite the people all around her. I wish that I could just be a regular farm girl with my father, my friends, not have to worry about if they're dead or not. Sighing, she let herself be ushered through the crowd, a profound emptiness weighing her down. And that's the end.
That was great.
Thank you.
Yes, very good.
Nice.
Is it wrong that I was hearing the Song of Storms from Legend of Zelda in my head while they were playing?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. It probably works. I've never played Zelda.
I shared a link to the actual song in chat.
Oh, nice.
So
Yeah. So
you can check it out later and then tell me if that's exactly what you were thinking or not.
I kind of have a few that I thought of. Like evacuate the dance floor, at least like in terms of tempo.
Mm-hmm.
Was something that occurred to me. But like, what were some like specific things that you liked? Just out of curiosity.
I liked the imagery with the energy guitar. That I was not expecting you to do that. That was cool.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Nick Brown. Like I kind of thought about that when hello, Count Valerian, welcome back. You can turn off your camera so that it's just your avatar if you want.
Mm-hmm. Also,
just turn
your
off the
mic is
camera.
muted.
Yeah.
Still.
I kind of thought about that when. Oh, you just. Hello, Count Valerian. Welcome back. You're probably. You can turn off. You're probably gonna have to mute your mic. Camera so that, or at least like. Or
Get
like
headphones.
Mute, or mute YouTube, since otherwise, like, you're gonna.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, mute YouTube. Okay.
Also, your mic is muted.
That's odd.
Still.
I kind of thought about that.
Oh.
Sorry. You just
Hmm.
You're probably.
Oh no.
Let's get it. Okay. But yeah, to answer the question, I kind of just thought about that. Like, I was thinking, okay, I wanted to have Rayla, like, kind of give life, kind of like Storm in the X-Men, kind of was able to make it rain in Africa. But I thought that I would kind of do something interesting where I make like a large desert, like, actually come to life with her power, kind of being able to use her power for the first time.
Well, that was a good demonstration.
Yeah,
so she blesses the rains down in Africa.
Pretty much, yeah. But basically, like, it's kind of the first time she's been able to use the second time she's been able to use her power in a spectacular fashion for something that she feels is positive. And kind of the other times it's been like really bad. It's ended up really bad. So, and I just thought that it would be cool to have her do it with music, because that's a big part of her character, is that she's a musician. And so that's what I thought of when I designed that scene. So I just thought, okay, how many books have a magical rock concert in them? And I just thought, okay,
Not many.
I was picturing Metallica's Ride the Lightning.
Yep. Well, enough about me. Welcome, Count Valerian the Black Dread, or Count Valerian the Dread. How are you doing, friend?
Am I
Yes.
audible now?
Yes, you are audible, and there is no feedback.
wow.
Lovely.
Yay.
Oh, wow. This is a dramatic moment in the story.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Hear my wrath.
Yeah, it was a very dramatic moment. I don't know when exactly, like, it's going to be placed in book 2 of the Dark Champion trilogy, but I know it's like somewhere around like end of the second act-ish. I've got a number of really good scenes from this book written. I got a few ideas while I was at work last night. I just need to kind of figure out the timelines and how the events mesh together, so that I can make it work.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway,
Cool.
Count Valerian, please introduce yourself to the chat.
Righto. I'm Count Valerian the Dread. Tremble before my wrath and all that sort of rot.
I bet you're not even a real count.
And and all that. And this is the first time I've ever done this, so I have an excerpt from chapter 2. The novel is called Lady Margaret, and it's set in an imaginary country, supposedly on a continent somewhere between the Americas and Asia. So this is an excerpt from chapter 2. Chapter 1 has been posted to the beta writers thread. Chapter 1 has. So let's get started and see what happens. See if my computer cooperates this time. Okay. The family council room in the tower was modestly furnished. It had a table, 4 chairs, a large wardrobe containing the family archives, a water clock, a prayer book, some sacred images, and a small vase with sacred water from the Angara. Although there were 4 chairs, usually only the Count and Countess were allowed to sit, and this was no exception. You called for me, noble parents? Said Barama. Yes, said his father. Your noble mother thinks you and your sister should be sent out to be fostered with your noble uncle, the Count Marojobo. I don't mind, said Barama. Maybe I'll get to see a real battle against the barbarians. We never have battles here, and no barbarians either, he said wistfully. Thank me, Handra, no, said the Countess. We do not need that here. Will I stop having to learn Mahanyaktari? Asked Barama with a thrill of hope. You will continue to learn everything a noble is expected to learn, said the Count. Your tutor will accompany you, along with your manservant and Chiyaku's maid. And now I shall instruct you as to how to comport yourself. Only your sister is still not here, and she is the one who primarily needs this lesson. You must never forget that Serthatan is a great house, and that your noble uncle rules there. I'll not have either of you shaming us with arrogance and rudeness. I won't, noble parents, said Barama. I'm not stupid. It was at this point that Chiyaku arrived. Already 12, going on 15, going on 18, she gave no sign of haste and made no apology for being late, but on the contrary, gave off an air of having been interrupted in the middle of an important activity like dyeing her hair, for the sake of a trifle like anything involving her parents. You're late, said their father. Well, I had to change into my family dress, didn't I? She snapped. I'm going to be presented at the imperial court this year, and I've been learning all the etiquette. I'm going to become the favorite Sarangi one day. Your brother doesn't need this talk, and neither do we, said their mother. And we are postponing your presentation and sending you out to be fostered in Serthatan. You can't, she yelled. We have to be presented at court at 12. You know that. The Emperor will be angry with you. We don't think it's a good idea for you to be presented at court yet, said the Count. Okay, half a moment, it's page downing. You are too young. They should never have required 12-year-olds to attend the court, especially not this court. You must spend a year at Serthatan first, with your noble uncle and aunt. My noble uncle and aunt are boring and can barely even speak Sendaranian, said Chiyaku. You will not speak of my noble brother like that, said the Countess. You must learn to respect your noble uncle and aunt, whose Sendaranian is better than yours. You must learn humility and not to put on these airs of the court when in the society of decent people. I bet they never even heard of Sarangis out there, snorted Chiyaku. Good, said Barama. They sound stupid. You're stupid, retorted Chiyaku. If you please the Emperor, a Sarangi can be the most powerful person at court. Then the court must be stupid too, said Barama. Enough, said the Count. Stop quarreling at once. And Barama, you must never speak that way about the court. Whether true or not, it is unwise. I hope we get to learn more interesting things at Castle Serthatan anyway, said Barama. Maybe we'll get to see real barbarians. Half a second. Chiyaku laughed rudely. We shan't learn anything there, she sneered scornfully. All they know out there is animals and crops and rubbish. If you do not stop being arrogant, you will never learn anything anywhere, said their mother. You must lower yourself in order to learn. Even Karat learnt from the heathen priest Paranja. The 9 Sons tells us that the self-exalting abases himself. Chiyaku looked sullen. You will depart in 3 months, after we have made the preparations, said the Count. And in the meantime we shall instruct the Yaji to preach to you on humility for 3 hours. Dismissed. 3 Terranian hours are a little less than 2 of our hours, but that was still long enough. Chiyaku flounced down and went back to dyeing her hair. Barama dragged his feet and went as slowly as possible back to the study and the lesson in Mahanyaktari. On the day that Chiyaku and Barama were to arrive at the castle, Margaret had bathed and put on her best dress, the one with the symbols of the 9 manifestations of the Godhead. Her parents had laid great stress upon the need to make a good impression on their guests, Margaret's gown even had a golden girdle and was dyed crimson. Never forget your manners, no matter what they may say, her mother had told her, and she had promised to try. But obeying would not always be easy. Pardon me. The guests arrived at the second hour of the afternoon on 15 Ichaura, or a little after 2 o'clock p.m. in late October. Chiyaku had insisted on taking the carriage despite the complete unsuitability of the terrain, and they had been delayed by being mired in the mud for a few hours, which had done nothing to improve Chiyaku's opinion of Ichalamu, although Barama continued to view it as a great adventure. Despite Margaret's best efforts, the meeting had its bumpy side. Her sister Adri was hiding in her room. The two girls, Chiyaku and Margaret, curtsied perfectly, but the ensuing conversation was awkward at best, as Chiyaku's first words to Margaret scarcely endeared her. "What's your name again, my lady?" "I can never remember." Barama squirmed. "It's Margaret, my lady," said Margaret, politely enough, although she looked daggers. "What kind of a name is that?" chortled Chiyaku. "I can't even pronounce it." "I can," said Chiyaku. Not Chiyaku, Barama. "Margaret." Margaret laughed, and thought that perhaps Barama wouldn't be so bad after all, despite being Chiyaku's brother. "It's a peasant name," said Chiyaku. "Are you a peasant?" "Is not," said Margaret. "We had queens with that name before we were in the Empire." "A Kalaman queen is only a—" "That's enough, Lady Chiyaku," interrupted her chaperone Azaa. "Your noble parents instructed you to be courteous, and courteous you will be. These are your noble mother's kin." Chiyaku scowled, but said, "I beg my lady's forgiveness," albeit in a voice that meant, "Fie on you, lowly minion." "Oh, not in the least," replied Margaret coolly. "It is rather a difficult name." "My lady also goes by Shirumba Wagan," said Margaret's chaperone, Varane. "That is her name in Sandaranian." "No one calls me that," muttered Margaret under her breath. But out loud she said, "Yes, that's much easier," in an only slightly sarcastic tone of voice. "I'm Barama," said Barama rather unnecessarily. "My lady's name, Flower of Righteousness, scarcely does you justice." It was the custom in Sandaran for a nobleman, upon being introduced to a lady, to pay her an extravagant compliment. But Barama was not imaginative enough to come up with anything better. Women had it easier, and when Margaret replied, "My lord is too kind," that was as much as decorum required. "You will want to rest and bathe before the welcome banquet," she added. "Varane, be so good as to escort Chiyaku to her chamber. Kor, you will kindly accompany Barama to his room." Kor was a manservant, and among other duties was required to wait upon male guests. Okay, I think that will do for now.
Very,
Get back in here.
very nice.
Very
I like
nice.
that.
Very nice.
Thank you, humans.
Is the yeah, I think that
Oh no.
maybe you just need to get rid of the echo. Oh, okay, the echo seems to be gone. Okay, that's good. But yeah, that's some good stuff. I like the initial character dynamics, and you managed to weave in the exposition very well of how this culture works.
Yeah.
There's bits I left out. There are bits in the novel where I go into a little greater detail about the culture, but I thought it would be better to start with something that was primarily dialogue.
Well, that's very good. I think that was well done, and you did a good job of reading. I'm very impressed.
Yeah, very nice.
I've been practicing all week.
Oh, that's good. Wow.
So, character dynamic. Anything that's awful, anything that's horrible and needs to be destroyed.
No, not
No.
that I can think of.
None that I can think of right now, anyways.
Okay, I've posted chapter 1 to the beta reader thing, and that also has a little bit about pronunciation of names and also has something about the religion. So it gives a little bit of detail about the culture. Thanks. And there's also some stuff about that in chapter 1, which sort of introduces the protagonist and introduces the castle of Serthaton, where she lives. That's spelled. Well, have a moment. I'll write it in the chat.
Well, that was fun.
And Mahan Yakhtari is a commentary upon letters. They look at the shape of letters and they make them mean all sorts of things in the Iranian alphabet, and they get all sorts of stupid meanings out of it. Well, meanings anyway out of it. Oh, and the continent is called Isharad, and they live and it's the Empire of Sandaran. And the religion is called Uchandra or Jakjambra.
You know, you could be using the private chat for this.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
So, well, that was we actually have to conclude this since I need to get some food before we start our commentary on BBC Narnia.
Narnia. Yes, Narnia.
Did you put a link in the Discord to that one yet?
Yes, it is already up. It's already scheduled and everything.
Yeah, which one is it? Because I can't
It would be
seem
the
to
second.
see it.
It would be the second one, I believe. Okay, let me. So we are ending this particular stream, and then we're going to pick up another one right after.
Okay.
So, okay.
Is that for all of us or just a select few people?
Just for a few people.
Okay, all right. I was just want to be sure.
No worries. You don't have to sit through 3 hours.
Okay, good. I actually have some other shit I need to work on, so.
Alrighty. Well, without further ado, then I must say one final thing to my guests and to my chat.
Holy shit. Okay, we're going.